Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to me.
It's much before your birthday as we're recording this. So it's odd to wish you a happy birthday before Thanksgiving. But
it's still November. It's not even my birthday month quite yet, but
we're not even
okay.
Oh, I guess we're just now in Sagittarius season. So
yeah, that's true. It actually kicks over.
You're
at
the least Sagittarius I've ever met.
Yeah, I know. I've
and
never
you have
really related to it.
From what I understand, you have a lot of Sagittarius in your chart.
It's not just my sun sign. It's
like multiple other things.
Yeah, it's many signs.
I don't understand you.
I don't know.
And I know you were born 2 weeks late, but it wouldn't have made a difference. You still would have been a Sagittarius. So
I was more toward the end of Sagittarius season.
So it still doesn't. I still don't get
solidly in it. I don't know.
Like, how are you and Taylor Swift both Sagittarius? Do you know what I mean?
There are aspects of it though that I think when it plays in. I've had Madeline, our tarot reader, try to explain this to me before. And when all you look at is the sun sign, then
sure, it doesn't totally give you the
it doesn't relate to me at all. But when you connect it with some of the others, it starts to make a little bit more sense.
Still feels like a stretch, though.
It's not the one out of all the 12, it's not the one that I would have looked at and said, yeah, that's me. I don't know. It is what it is.
Whereas here I sit, a Leo, through and through.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know. It's not, no one thing can be everything to a person, you know?
Nope.
No one modality. Anyway, that was just like a happy birthday thing. You're old.
Happy birthday to me. 34.
Oh God, you're telling people?
Yeah, why not?
Well, you know how I feel
34.
about aging. So
hey, it is what it is.
You know,
I mean, this is how many years I was on the planet. Can't change it. Not gonna fight it.
I guess. And I guess people should just know.
It's better than not aging, if you ask me.
True. I mean, unless you're a vampire.
Given the alternative, which I still would rather not be.
That's where we differ.
Would still pick being human, even if it means aging.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to be a vampire. There's a lot going on there.
So I would definitely pick being a vampire. I want more time on Earth. There's more things to do and see. And
wouldn't you miss food?
Not if it smelled bad, I guess.
I think you'd miss food.
Well, but what if blood tastes so good that you forget that food was good?
But then you have to find blood all the time.
Yeah.
And that's
you have to find food all the time. You have to cook food all the time.
That's way less complicated than finding blood.
No, blood's everywhere. It's just walking around. You can just go anywhere into any store. You can't go into any store to find groceries.
You're cool just killing random strangers for their blood.
If I had to kill them, no. But if you could just kind of like they do on the Vampire Diaries, you could just drink from them and then make them forget about it.
You wouldn't find that a little bit invasive?
I mean, if you were starving, I guess you'd get used to it,
Yeah, I don't think I want to deal with all that. I still pick being human. Even if I have to be 34.
Okay. Well, I'd rather be a vampire than, but I'd rather be alive too. So, okay. I'll take that. If I can't be a vampire, I'll keep aging. That's fine.
Okay. Barely okay with it, but okay.
Okay. Also, we're very hard left turn. Today's the last day of our holiday promotion thing that we're doing.
Nothing to do with vampires, but still relevant to you.
Like human life, this expires as well.
That's the closest tie-in you could do. That's pretty bad. Okay. Well, yes, today is the last day of our holiday promo. The one thing that I know for sure is still happening today is if you want to get the Passion Profile short course for 30% off, $75 off, today's your last day. As of tomorrow, the price on our site is going to go back up.
Yeah. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to like enter a discount code or anything. It's just
already cheaper. But if you try to log in tomorrow, it's not going to be that much more expensive, but it's going to be.
You don't log into a website, Kristen.
Well, that's true. I guess I was thinking if you log into the course, but you haven't bought it yet.
Your new age.
You're all 34 of my ancient years.
Talking about logging into the internet.
Next thing you know, I'd be like,
you're spending time with you're now spending way too much time with a much older person, and it shows.
Yeah, my new husband is 9 years older than me,
8.5.
But he acts like
a 60-year-old. So
I tell him all the time he's an 80-year-old man on the inside. So it seems older than.
I mean, all of his friends are really old too.
They are, yeah.
Like
that's who he relates to.
Worryingly old. Why are you not friends with anyone your age or younger? They're all 60. What's happening?
He has any real younger friends. He has a few that are his age, but his closest friends are older. It's true. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's rubbing off. I can tell because you don't log into the internet, and you used to know that. You're forgetting.
Oh dear.
And you just said, "Oh dear." So I'm also concerned. All right. Wow.
I've always been an old soul, but now it's really coming through.
I mean, wow.
Watch out.
You're aging into your elderliness, I guess.
Watch out. Well, back to what's relevant to you. The short course is discounted through the end of the day. As part of the promotion, we did have some single sessions available. My hunch, even though we are recording this quite early, is that they're probably gone by now.
But we only had like a 10 to give away.
If not, check the link in our site and see if we still have any available.
And by giveaway, I mean for sale. Because I'm not giving them away like candy.
No, you still have to buy them.
Yeah.
But they're not usually available at all. So the fact that you even can buy one is special.
Mm-hmm. Try the link in the show notes. And if it works, yay for you. If it doesn't, well, you missed out. See if we ever do it again. Or just sign up for coaching next month when it comes back around.
Sure. Yep. Okay. So that's that update. Today's the last day.
Today's the last day. Get yourself the short course for $75 off. Great place to start if you're new to Clarity on Fire and you're like, but I'm lost and I don't know what to do with my life.
Great way to start 2022, which is part of our topic today as well. Like we're talking about winding down one year and looking ahead at the next. And this is a good
kind of, but not really.
Well, it is a year-end kind of episode.
Yes,
so
I know. But anyway, before we get into that,
I'm saying it does relate because some of you might want to do a course like this to prepare for setting some goals, setting some intentions, making some career changes in the new year.
So if you feel stuck or overwhelmed or unsure of, what step to take next, if you're paralyzed by indecision and you took the Passion Profile quiz and you're like, wow, that's interesting. I am a fire starter. I don't know what to do with that information, but I feel like it's true and it's not what I'm doing right now. This might be a good way for you to get a dose of direction and relief relatively quickly. So try it out. Okay. Link to that stuff will be in the episode notes. All right.
Okay.
Some loud ass birds outside the window right now. Chasing each other around. Okay. This is meant to be a side chat. And okay, I prepared Kristen with 2 questions. And I'm going to ask you guys these same questions. And this is just going to plant some seeds in those beautiful brains of yours and see what grows. So it doesn't have to be right now, process this. I want to talk about one, what have me and Kristen, but of course you guys too, what have you integrated this year? Like, maybe it's something you intellectually knew, but you had a hard time actually mastering it. Maybe you don't feel like you're at mastery level yet, and that's okay. What do you feel like you finally got? Like it finally clicked in and you finally made progress on it or overcame the difficulty or you crested the peak and now you're on the downhill slope. Okay. And then what thing are you you're still on the upward hill of.
Mm-hmm.
You're still struggling to master. You still got to integrate it. It's probably going to be your 2022 burden to bear. This is what I want to discuss today.
Okay. Do you want to start or should I?
I mean, do you know what you're going to say?
Yeah, I have my answers to both.
Well,
of them.
but no, I want to do one at a time. I want us to each do answer to number one, and then I want us to each do answer to number two.
Okay. Why don't you do number one? What was the thing that you feel like you not necessarily mastered, but
I'm now on the downhill slope.
Made some serious progress on.
Okay. I don't have a label for it. I have to just kind of be messy about how to describe it because I can't just be like, can't give it like a catchy name.
Okay.
Maybe I will by the end of this have a catchy slogan for it.
You're an external processor, so it might come to you as you talk.
And a great wordsmith, obviously. Okay. So I feel like what I finally got this year, not without much exhaustion and labor, is that you kind of can't sit on the sidelines of life and dip your toe into the pool and go, but I'm trying, and then expect things to be different. So what I did this year, and you cannot tell me that I'm wrong, and I'm pointing a finger in her face right now as if she's going to tell me that I'm wrong, and she's not. She's going to just agree with me. I feel like I Friday Night Lights this year. I Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Can't Lose.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it a Shonda book, Year of Yes?
I kind of said yes to literally everything. Didn't
hard?
I did.
I think you did that.
So
Absolutely.
I have very complicated feelings about the idea of copping out, which I wrote about in Forever Alone. Also, great accomplishment that I did this year.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a whole book, 50,000 words. Maybe it'll see the light of day as a book in 2022. Could be a goal. Could be beyond that. I don't know. But I did turn it into a podcast that you all, I hope you all heard. But in that, I talked about my complicated feelings about copping out because I feel like I believe that the universe can meet you where you're at. I believe that the right person could literally just knock on your door one day. Mm-hmm. I do. And because I believed that, I was often very stubborn about engaging with life. Like, I'd be like, but I know that can happen. So why should I get on a dating app? Right? I just didn't want to do it. And I had done it in the past, but I'd done it in such a roundabout fashion that it hardly counted as me doing it. You know, like I had you screen people for me so I didn't have to look at it. And then I was like, but I did it. But I didn't do it to the point that I got anything out of it. And what I did this year was I said, all right, no more waffling around that particular thing. Like we're talking about downloading a dating app. I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to actually do it. I'm not going to hide behind somebody else. I'm going to actually do it. And in a matter of weeks, if not months, I had worked through trauma that had clearly been there for 15 plus years that I had never actually gotten to the heart of because I'd never had the guts to do it for real. I'd always been skirting around the edges of doing it, which is, I don't have any judgment around the fact that I skirted around the edges of that for a while. But I realized that one of my failings as a type 4 is that I would rather think about doing something and give myself credit for having thought about it than do it. Or I'll pretend to kind of do it and then be like,
that counts.
That counts, right? And this year I just said, fuck it. I'm going to do all of the things.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do them full out. And I'm going to actually show up and I'm not going to sit on the sidelines. I'm going to play. I'm going to be a starter in this game. And I got very different results, didn't I? Now, they were not without their own chaos.
Sure. Well, participating in the game is inviting
Sometimes
chaos
you
in.
get beat up.
When you're on the outskirts of the game saying, look, there's a game, then you're not in the chaos. That's part of why it's so scary. Saying yes and putting yourself in those situations is inherently chaotic. It's why there's a part of you that's like, I don't know if I want to do that.
I was just so afraid before I downloaded an app. Like one of the reasons I was like skirting the edges of it was and I talked about this in Forever Alone a little bit. I was so afraid that I would get it wrong and that I would end up in the same situation I'd found myself in before. And I was so afraid of that happening again that it was like I couldn't fully engage with it. But in engaging with it, I had to get over that fear and I had to work through that fear. And there's often no other way for you to work through the fear than for you to do the thing. Like there comes a point where you can't think through the fear anymore and you can't overcome it by any other way than just doing it. And I had to do many things this year that I didn't want to do, that I was afraid of, that I would have said was my worst case scenario. Here I still stand, alive, relatively well, not in a depressed heap on the floor. As Gandalf said, strike me down and I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. You know, I feel like Gandalf right now. So like I learned how to actually fully
Play full out.
play full out.
I think
And
that
you
is your
know what?
tagline for this one.
Yeah. And it was hard, but you can't deny. I mean, you heard a little bit of it in chapter 7 of Forever Alone, where I talked about, you know, meeting Will. And if I ever write a season 2, that story didn't exactly end where I left off. It keeps coming back. Taylor Swift said 3 months in the grave, and there it is, back again. But like that was not an experience I had had in a long time.
No.
Being that up close and personal, literally and figuratively, to someone who in many ways was like very, very, very close to what I said I'd wanted. I hadn't had that experience in a long time. So playing full out clearly led to a different result.
And it led to you having to face some internal stuff, some deep healing that you would not have triggered.
I don't think I would have gotten there any other way.
If you had been just thinking about doing something.
No. I mean, I hadn't gotten there in 15 plus years.
Exactly.
Even trying.
So you get different external physical results in the world, but you also get different internal results and explore areas that you wouldn't have needed to explore because it wasn't relevant based on the circumstances. Like you have to put yourself into sometimes really hard, confusing, new circumstances in order to see new parts of yourself.
Yeah, you can't think your way. Like there comes a point where you just have to do something different and very uncomfortable and vulnerable and potentially something that makes you want to throw up. But you know it's in your highest and best interest. That's what I did. And I did it many times over this past year.
How do you
and
feel
I have
about...
No notes for myself.
I was going to say, how do you feel about the prospect of doing new hard things that might surface that you're called to do?
I mean, like I
having
said,
now done all that.
I just said about being Gandalf. Like, that's the quote about
less
resilience.
Daunted? Yeah. Less daunted.
You become more resilient. You're not doing life right if you do hard things and then you survive it and then you don't feel tougher afterward, you know? And not tougher in a rigid way, but tougher in a flexible way. Like that's what resilience is the ability to bounce back. And I still think that I'm annoyed that life has served me up a lot of tough shit in the last like couple years. And like there hasn't been nearly enough enjoyment, like for my taste. But I do see that I hope that I've made progress this year. I think it would be hard to deny that
anybody
I've made progress,
who has seen the interworkings of your year would agree. A lot of progress was made in a relatively short amount of time.
That's part of why it felt so intense.
And
it happened very quickly.
That's a result of playing full out.
I want to keep doing it, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I guess I will. I feel like I'm afraid the ante's going to get upped, you know? Because that's kind of how it works, right? You get to a certain level of like fitness and then it's like, great, add some weight to that. It's like, no.
I'm good here for now.
I'm good here.
Just for a little while.
I like just maintaining. It's fine. It's fine.
It's okay to maintain for a little while.
But the counterpoint to that is that I might also be emotional. I might be more fit for something even better. Do you know what I mean? That's the counterpoint. Is that maybe at the point where Will came into my experience, I was a fit for that, but I'd like to be fit for more than that. And maybe going through that is what made me fit for more than that.
Exactly.
Actually, in fact, I think that is exactly true for me. And that's just how it works. That's my thing. a good thing, right?
It's a good thing. It's a good
Okay,
thing.
what's your
Plan full
thing?
out. Well, the biggest thing that happened this year, obviously, was getting married. But I don't feel like that's something I've mastered yet, seeing as it's been less than a week. So, like, I'll come back next year and tell you how the experience of the transition, the big transition of moving into married life
I'm
is.
sorry. If you think after a year you have any authority to speak on that in an expert way,
probably
you don't.
not
So
for 5 to 10 minimum. But so even though that's the biggest thing that happened, I don't think that that's what I would answer. That's not how I would answer the question of what do I feel like I made a
it's
lot
not really
of
a lesson or an integration.
exactly. Well, it is kind of an integration, but not really a lesson.
No, but like not it's not a life. It's not like a life lesson integration.
So what I would say I finally integrated, which is maybe slightly embarrassing considering we are the experts on this, is balancing out my passion profiles. That has ever since we even came up with this concept of passion profiles and recognizing that people need different things from their work and they're motivated by different things in their work. I started out thinking I was a fire starter and thinking I was exclusively a fire starter, but somehow not feeling like a very good fire starter. So that was already a challenge. That was already probably a sign that there was more going on. And it took a while for me to recognize I have a whole other profile, which just means
we should link to the episode we did back in June on this, which I will.
I did
show notes.
Talk about this then when it was particularly relevant. I was in the middle of making that adjustment, that transition at the time. And now looking back, I can see that is exactly the balance that I needed at this phase of my life. And it took me a really long time to recognize that, to figure out what the right balance was. I tried so many things the last at least 2 years, maybe even longer. The last couple of years, I tried so many things to try to get the thriver part of me to feel more validated, to feel like it was getting its needs met. But I kept doing it in a way that was actually sneakily kind of in a fire starter way. So it only was when I decided, I think I need a true thriver job and a fire starter business that I can pour my energy into in a balanced way, that I feel like both of those sides of me are actually content right now. Now, that will lead into my next.
Would you like to? I was about to say, okay, these are completely related.
Feeds really well.
Go ahead.
Into the next answer, which is the thing that I've been struggling with for maybe ever.
Still haven't integrated it yet. We're working on it.
Still haven't totally integrated it. Still working on it. And now it's more necessary than ever that I do so. I wanted to call it time management, but I actually think it's more energy management, managing my own energy so that I have the capacity and the bandwidth to do the things that I want and need to do for all the rest of my life to feel like it's in balance. The way I've been feeling so much recently is I have so many things on my plate and I want them all on my plate. And I actually kind of need them all on my plate. And I feel overwhelmed by them all. I don't want any of them to go because then I feel out of balance again. So in order to maintain the balance that I feel like I've finally achieved in my work and lots of areas of my life, I need to be able to manage my energy better. I do feel like I made strides this year in some, and I've talked about some of those throughout the year on the podcast and various updates. But I have a lot of work to do, I think, on that side of things. How to manage my overwhelm, how to manage my time and my energy so that I can enjoy and appreciate and get all the benefits of all the things that I want to do, particularly 2 jobs that both contribute a lot of meaningful aspects to my life. I want them both. I need them both. And that's a lot on top of all the rest of life stuff. So I don't know what the answer is yet. I don't think I need to know the answer as of now. I have some ideas of things I want to try to involve and incorporate, and I've had to let some things go. So part of what led me to my first answer, which was finally integrating and balancing out my two passion profiles, was starting to write the book about passion profiles. And I got pretty far. I got over a third of the way through. And one of the things that happens when you are looking that closely at a concept that you created and you truly believe in as a means of helping people balance out their work and do work that's the right structure for them, is you have to take a really hard look at your own work balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't write that book in integrity and still feel that sense of imbalance within myself. So that actually was a big impetus for me to finally integrate what I needed in my two passion profiles. And then ironically, I no longer had bandwidth for the book for the time being. So that had to be put on the back burner, which I'm sad about, and it will come back. So for those of you who heard me mention it a long time ago, it's on pause, but it is not. It is still
on an indefinite hiatus,
but it's also something that is really and truly like a life goal of mine. So it's not going anywhere indefinitely. But until I get a handle on this whole time and energy management thing, where I'm not overwhelmed by all the things that I want in my life, I can't keep adding more. I need to balance out what I have and manage my energy well, so that if there are other things I want to add or kind of trade in and out, I can do that.
Okay, but people are going to be wanting to know what your ideas are for how you're going to work on that in 2022.
Well, part of well, I have some ideas, and I have probably some more exploring to do, frankly. So I don't have all the
solution
answers
mapped out.
Yeah, I think that's partially why it's a work in progress, frankly.
Sure. I'm just inquiring minds will want to know what your ideas are.
Sure.
At least in brief.
Well, I do think one of the things that I was just telling Rachel about the other day is I, for the past at least year, probably year and a half or more, have kept adding more things that I wanted to do onto my, first it was a class, and then it was a program that I wanted to develop, and then it was
writing a book.
It was all these things that I kept adding on, piling on.
Well, you would switch them out. Like you wouldn't do the class and the book at the same time.
Well, I did do a couple of things at the same time. That was really crazy. But yeah, so some of that was me trying to figure out how to balance my profile. So some of that is less relevant now, but it's really hard to manage your energy when you keep changing up what you're putting your energy on, and you keep adding more things on because you're excited about all of them and you want to do all of them and you see value in all of them, but you never just maintain. So you can't get to a good homeostasis if you're always piling on. So one of the things I think I need to do is take a break for a little while from adding new projects and ideas and classes and all of that on, even though I don't want to. I'm already thinking, what can I do in January once my life starts to settle down again? I'm like, stop it, Kristen. Stop. Just give yourself a little bit of time to do.
You're not that person. You're not someone who likes to do a bunch of things. So I'm not sure where that knee jerk comes from.
But I like to learn about new things. And I like taking classes, and I like reading a new book about something. And then I always want to incorporate it. And then that's too much. Then it's usually too much with everything else I have going on.
This is the INFP in you.
I think it's the P part of the INFP coming out.
Yeah.
So I do like diving into something new. I think first of all, I need to take a break, and I need to balance out my normal commitments, manage my energy, and come up with a good routine or a good rhythm, get into a good rhythm with what I currently have without trying to add more on my plate. And then really determine what I have capacity for. Another thing I would like to try, as a time or energy management tool, is some of you have heard of what is it called exactly? It's like zero something budgeting, where you budget your money down to like you use all of your money until you get down to zero, whatever. Somebody's going to know what I'm trying to say here. I think it might be a Dave Ramsey thing, but I wouldn't swear to that.
Yeah, but you need a budget. That app works like that too.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like a
you need
zero
a budget.
sum.
Zero sum budgeting. I think that might be it, but
I think you made that up, but that's
fine. I don't know. But I
get the idea.
Someone on a podcast talking about that in terms of time.
Everything gets a job. Like
all of
every
your time
dollar gets a job, and the zero.
Yes.
If getting to zero it's not like you want to have no money. It's that you want all of the dollars to be allocated towards something, whether half of it's savings, that's fine.
Otherwise money just kind of gets thrown towards different things.
There's no intention behind it.
Exactly. There's less intention when you're not clear on what each dollar's job is. So I heard someone on a podcast somewhat recently talking about how she incorporated that into her calendar. So she came up with a dream calendar and she gave all of her time a job, even if the job was just
watch Netflix
or have a free evening, or walk the dogs or whatever. It doesn't have to always be super productive. It just has to, you have to know what that time is for. And the point is not to live your dream schedule every single week, but the point is to at least have an idea of what that time was intended for originally. So you can determine if you want to use it for that or use it for something else. So I've been wanting to try that as well. And I will report back once I give that a try. I think I like the intentionality of it. I like the visual aspect of it, of like putting it on a Google Calendar and mapping out what my ideal week would look like, and then seeing how I actually live according to it. I'm not going to, I'm not saying that you follow it like a drill sergeant or something, but it just gives you more of a concept of, can I even fit all the things in that I want in a week?
Now I must rest.
Because I also think there's this idea of, I can fit it all in. And then if you look at your calendar, you're like, I don't know if I actually have all the hours to fit that all in which case something has to go, instead of imagining I can fit it all in. And then the time is gone and then I'm stressed.
You have an overly optimistic take on time, which
exactly.
many Ps do.
So I think this might help me be like, that actually can't all happen this week. So something might have to go to next week. And then I might not feel so pressured to do it all. Just imagining, I'll probably have time at some point. And then I don't. So I'm going to try some of that. I'm going to give myself a break and manage my energy with my normal, just daily commitments. I'm going to try this zero sum time budgeting or whatever we want to call it. And we'll come back and see if that has made a difference.
All right. That's your two things.
Mm-hmm. And they're very tied.
Mm-hmm. Mine is not
totally different.
No, I mean, I could probably find a way to make it tied. Because
you don't have to if you don't want to.
But no, I'm not going to. Okay. How do I don't have an easy way to phrase this. I'm trying to learn that when you're in pain, something's not going wrong. This is very hard. The dark stuff, both internally and externally, I'm struggling, but I'm working on it to integrate and accept. So like internally, that looks like anxiety and depression being something I've always kind of off and on struggled with. And the problem when you're a very self-aware, spiritually bent person is that you'll start to tell yourself a very warped story about any negative emotion or feeling you have. Like if I'm depressed in this moment, then I know that I'm blocking myself off from what I want, because I know that like whatever I want is not on this frequency. Like if I'm like feeling like I'm in the shithole emotionally speaking, what I want doesn't live in a shithole, right?
Like attracts like, and then when you're not where you want to be.
Right. Which only makes me feel worse about myself.
Of course.
Makes me feel, and if you've heard me say this in some of my worst moments, I feel like I'm not wired for life. Like I feel like I'm wired in a way that makes life hard for me. And in some ways that's kind of true. Like, if you don't experience anxiety or depression, and you're a more even-keeled person, you don't really you don't really have like the same grasp of like how hard life can feel for someone who does. And I probably don't have a grasp of how hard it is for people who have it worse than me, of course. But like, it just makes you feel worse about yourself when you feel like that, because you're like, God, I'm never going to get what I want from this place, but I don't know how not to be this way. This is just how it is. This is how I'm wired. And like, no amount of processing it and like can change the core nature of how I feel like my personality is just wired. I can't change my personality, but it feels like I'm being asked to in order to get what I want. Like there's a core part of my personality that is anathema to getting what I want. Good vocab word, Rachel. And on the outside, when I go through hard things, like, this whole condo flooding situation, and I'm not like the Forever Alone chapter 7 situation. It makes me feel it's so easy to look at something that feels like it's going wrong, or that you thought was one thing and then turned out to be another, and then leaves you disappointed or hurt or feeling some sense of loss, and going, well, great, what did I do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm learning, and I will have to keep learning, is that just because something is dark, ugly, scary, painful, does not mean that something has gone wrong, and doesn't mean that you are wrong. Because what I realized is that there are plenty of people who are anxious and depressed and get what they want. Plenty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many people have like happy, healthy, romantic relationships, but they're also anxious depressives or like creatives? Think about Glennon Doyle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Poster child for that. Her and Abby Wambach, right?
Yeah.
But if you believe that you being that way is a block to getting what you want, that's
You're right.
the problem.
Right. You're right in that your belief that your brokenness is like, if I'm wired this way and the way I'm wired is not going to get me what I want, that must mean I'm broken. And the belief in brokenness is actually contributing to not getting what you want. It's not the fact that sometimes you have anxious or depressive days. It's not the way you're wired isn't the problem. It's how you feel about the way you're wired.
Yeah.
That creates the resistance.
Yeah.
And the judgment, and then
it's like
disconnection.
It's like your body, right? If you think that how you look or the size of your body doesn't matter, you'll probably
you'll be right.
You'll be right. And you'll get what you want, right? Like, you'll be confident. You'll be out there like strutting your stuff. People will take note. No one's going to think twice about it. If you think, oh my God, I can't exist in this body and get what I want, you'll be right. Because you will lack the confidence, and you will, you will close yourself off from opportunities
into the mix.
I've been doing that with anxiety and depression. Basically, I've been like, oh, I have to get over this in order to get what I want. No, because what makes me anxious depressive is also what makes me all the other good things. And we can't selectively amputate, right? Like, I'm also creative.
Yeah.
I'm also a really good storyteller. I can write words and sometimes speak them in a way that helps people understand things that they didn't have access to before. I couldn't do that if I wasn't highly sensitive. I couldn't do that if I didn't have deep, deep wells of emotion and empathy. Like, sometimes that highly sensitive nature gets expressed in depression and anxiety. Sometimes it gets expressed in creativity and intensity and passion and love and like stuff we'd label good. But it's all me. And there's no part of me that can be bad.
Yeah, the solution is not to fix yourself. The solution is to accept yourself.
Yes. Yeah. I told one of my friends the other day that exact thing, because she was struggling in a different way around accepting herself. And I was like, stop looking for things to fix and start looking for things to accept. And that's what I started doing recently. And I still got to do it. But I've actually felt better since I started doing that. I'm like, wait, I'm awesome though. No, like, genuinely, there's a lot to like about me.
Not despite my flaws, but including them.
Because of them,
The whole person I am with those
Hey, the
as
darker
a part
the
of
night,
how I'm wired.
the brighter the stars and shit. Right? Contrast, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I also had a thought, wait a second. I don't want to manifest a romantic partner into my life who I got because I overcame my personality, because I overcame my anxiety and depression. I'd rather have someone who's like, I can work with that, or who gets
I
it.
love you even when you are anxious and depressed.
No, because
yes,
because you're like a deeply feeling, intuitive person who sometimes feels like that, but then sometimes feels like this.
Yeah, you don't have to fix
Hey,
yourself to get what you want.
How about the whole spectrum of you is acceptable and there's nothing broken about it? How about that? And how about the fact that pain, whether it's internal or external, right? Like going through hard shit and you can't understand why it's happening. Like pain is not necessarily a bad thing. There's growing pains.
Well, usually pain is a sign, there are times, of course, where pain is just a sign that something's wrong.
I know,
but
it's hard to tell the difference between growing pains and like unhealthy pain.
But there's a lot of times where pain is stretching into an uncomfortable new.
I know.
All transitions come with pain. The good, the bad, the neutral, they still always come with some degree of grief and pain and discomfort and newness and stretching. And that's not a problem. That's part of it. The only way you can avoid pain is if you never do anything new.
And that's not even true, because eventually you'll feel pain because you're stagnating.
True. Exactly. Yeah. Pain is not the problem. It's how you're reacting to it. Are you believing it's a horrible, terrible thing that you should avoid? Or do you recognize this is a normal part of life and growth?
And you need contrast sometimes to learn. Like, I need to learn what I don't want, to learn what I, to get what I do want. I need to have had this hard experience so that it clarified some important things for me. Like,
you have to give up your idea that there's a correct type of person, whether that's a physical type of person or an emotional type of person. There's a type of person who gets the things that I want. And until I become that person, I won't get the things that I want. That's not how it works.
There's you. And there's you accepting yourself and getting out of your own way. That's kind of it.
You don't have to become someone else. You just have to accept who you already are.
Like enthusiastically, I think. And then be okay with the fact that sometimes you're going to be in pain and it doesn't mean that something's gone wrong.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you the same question now. How are you going to do that? If that's the work, how do you intend to make that shift? Because it's knowing it is one thing and integrating it's a very different thing. We're talking about integration here.
I can already feel the first part of it, integrating, the part where I'm enthusiastically embracing my darkness.
Okay.
And appreciating that without it, I wouldn't be the other things. That I can't selectively choose. Like, okay, but without that, you wouldn't have been able to write a whole book this year in a very short period of time without a lot of effort. That's not something everyone could say or do. And I was able to do that because of who I are. So like, we're going to shit on that? I don't think so. You wouldn't be a very good coach if you weren't any of those things, right? Well, we're going to just not look at that. We're going to throw that out of our argument. No, we can't do that. So I've been better at integrating that. I don't know. I also have been better at acting on it. So more to come on this potentially in either a future season 2 of Forever Alone. Definitely in my series that I do on Patreon with Katie Beth. I'm considering getting back on dating apps after taking a month off and this time trying Bumble. And so as far as integration goes, I think I'm going to have a very different experience this time around, because one of the reasons I got off Hinge, which I talked about in my bonus episode of Forever Alone that came out last month, was that it was just taking a huge toll on my mental health. And so part of it was getting off of that and allowing me to reset and recalibrate. And now that I have, I feel like I'm going to be much clearer about like, listen, this is who I am. I'm awesome. This is what I'm worth. I'm not tolerating anything below my bar. Like, this is my bar. And I'm usually very good at that. But I think I'm going to be even better at it. This is my bar. Run up to it, clothesline yourself on it if you want to, but like, it's not changing. This is my bar. It's only going to get higher, right? As for the other thing, the like, life isn't going wrong because you're in pain. That one, I don't I think my intention that I will set now is to learn about how do we tell the difference between growing pain and unhealthy pain? Like there's growing pains and then there's my appendix is about to burst.
Right. Right.
And emotionally, we have both of those things.
Pain is always a signal of some kind, but how do you read the message
I know.
in the most helpful way so you know if it's...
We might have to have a separate side chat about pain.
I think we should.
Because
there's a lot of nuance.
I know,
there.
we could just...
But not all pain is bad. And I do think that's...
Yes, that's the takeaway today. There might be more to discuss.
It's an overgeneralization that I think a lot of us make. That's a sign something's bad, or that I don't like this, so I'm going to go back to my comfort zone.
Something failed. Something feels like it's not working. Mm-hmm. Something didn't go the way I thought. I'm in pain, therefore something's wrong. No, not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't yet know exactly how I'm going to integrate that, but I know now. And so knowing will hopefully change how I show up. And we'll see. We'll check in about it. Like you just I'll have to check in with me too.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I hope this gave you some food for thought. Of
a lot of food for thought, I think.
Of if any of what we shared is relevant or resonant, I hope that was validating at least. But I'm assuming many of you have your own answers to this. And at the very least, I think it's valuable to pose those questions to yourself and say, what am I really proud of that I feel like I made a lot of progress on this year? Maybe even feel like I mastered.
Maybe I'm on the downhill
or at least
slope.
I'm in the maintenance phase now. I'm not in the making it happen phase.
I'm not sweating my ass off on it now.
And then what's something that
I'm kind of sweating my ass off right now on
surfacing that this is my area to keep doing the reps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we'd love to know what those answers were for you. You can always leave a comment.
Mm-hmm. This will be the last episode of 2022.
Yeah, we're taking a little break for the holidays.
We'll be back
first Friday in January.
I think it's January 7th. It's kind of late in January with Dear Rachel.
Well, if you miss us, you have hundreds of episodes you could go back and listen to. The vast majority of you have not listened to all of them. There's a very few of you who have, which is highly impressive to me. But for most
more than
of you,
Kristen can say, she's done.
Oh, no way have I listened to all of them. I mean, I guess I've been part of all of them. I've listened to all the ones I wasn't featured on. So that's something. But if you miss us, you can do a little Russian roulette on your podcast feed and scroll back and see whatever comes up. That'll be your message of the day. Your message from the universe of the day. But otherwise, we will be back with brand new episodes in January.
And enjoy or don't all of the holidays between now and then at your leisure, like feel how you feel about holidays.
No pressure to enjoy them. But if you're a person who likes the holidays,
I would like to like holidays. It's just that other people sometimes make it hard. Okay. It is what it is,
And since we won't talk to you until next year, Happy New Year.
See you in 2022. Wow. Jesus. I never thought I'd be single in 2022. Telling you. Wow. And also don't forget, last thing, you can still get the short course for $75 off through the end of today.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll see some of you in there.
All right. See you next year.
Bye.